Morning to you, Senna, and to your listeners.
And I hope you're well.
We are doing well. God's grace abounds.
And this morning we're discussing something that was contained in a report presented to the Minister for Energy yesterday about missing containers at the ports. I know you watch the power sector critically. How prevalent are these issues when it comes to the ECG?
Well, from what we picked up last 2 months, that was made public to us as to our relation to the ECG being unable to clear some containers of goods and accepting to let it go through auctioning, then going back to buying the goods from the person who won that opportunity. Adding on to the fact that we get indication today that there are missing containers, then of course it does seem that as a prevalent issue here, probably it is the new government that is shedding light on this issue, that we believe that it's a systemic issue and it is something that's been going on for a while. It becomes quite worrying if you look at ECG's own position today, unable to collect close to 45% of its expected revenue, clearly showing deficit in revenue mobilization, and added on to debt in the sector. One would have expected that incidents of this nature would have come to compound the issues. But here we are. You clearly see a syndicated approach to fleece the country. And as now, probably we'll not look at the other side. Let's ask ourselves, did these containers really arrive in Ghana? Or some sort of engineering just to make us feel like, we have containers of this amount to clear goods in order to upgrade our system. But did they really arrive? That's another side to look at. And if they did arrive, and the whopping 1,300 plus can vanish, huge containers, and these are not granules or biscuits that can be packed in boxes and stolen. I think that they open the space for further interrogation and investigation. So people are held accountable to deter others in future from mismanagement and also to recover these funds and restore some public trust in the ECG.
The minister was just speaking to us, and he told us that he's decided that that aspect of it must be subject to criminal investigation. There must be some criminal investigation launched into the matter. Do you agree?
Of course, I did say that this is indicated, theft, and the theft cannot be treated as a civil case. It's a criminal case because incidents like this have its own impact. So beyond the fact that the stolen goods could probably impact on future or impeding upgrade of infrastructure so as to improve of power supply reliability, there is also the impact of lack of public confidence in the ECG system. And investors are looking at all this. And so we are losing not only on monetary grounds, we are losing public and investor confidence. We are compelled to defer a system upgrade that will give us reliable power. Some of these losses must be answered by people responsible within the chain of equipment procurement and clearance and into storage. And so, for sure, it is a criminal case and it must be handled as such.
I see. But how big a deal is the ECG? Because there's the matter of the energy sector bill. I was just reading the Minister for Finance's post. He talks about 2.5 billion monthly bill from the energy sector. ECG generates only or contributes 1.3 billion. Now, the government will have to every month find 1.2 billion in order to be able to pay off the monthly bill alone. 1.2 billion monthly. How big a deal is cleaning up ECG and making sure they are much more efficient to addressing these financial challenges within the energy sector?
Of course, it's a big deal because, as you read yourself, if an expected revenue generation of 2.5 will have to be augmented by government intervention of close to 1.2 billion, then of course the ECG is becoming or has become a fiscal burden on the economy. And so this 1.2 that could have been allocated to some areas to improve on our education, on our health, our road infrastructure, and the many other state interventions, it's been directed to the ECG because of somebody's, incompetence and mismanagement, negligence, and deliberate actions and inactions. And so it's a deal. The ECG is draining the entire economy and depriving other sectors of intervention.
But then, how should this be approached? Of course, the issue of privatization has been raised. There are many other things. What does this government need to do to improve the efficiency of the electricity company of Ghana, reduce the corruption that we are hearing about? What do they need to do?
Well, of course, there must be institutional reforms so that the ground that is set for theft, mismanagement, and negligence is shaken to give new form of confidence into the system. And so if the reform has to even take the path of private sector participation for efficiency and fund injection, so must it be. If required to do an entire management overhaul of the ECG, okay, so be it. But I don't think that we can be going the same path, practicing the same old attitude and expect new results. And so a thorough shake-up reform is required in the downstream segments of the power sector.
And you get to speak to many of the players in the sector. How bad is the issue of indebtedness to the sector? Finance Minister is talking about $1.1 billion to ENI alone this year. How bad is the debt issue?
Because it threatens the stability of the entire sector. ECG is at the end of the value chain when it comes to the power segment. Somebody supplies the fuel, somebody generates the power, somebody, before even the generation of power, somebody transmits the fuel, and somebody generates, another transmits the power, and the ECG is expected to distribute, then collect the cash, ensure that the deposit that arouse the revenue through the cash waterfall mechanism for equitable and fair distribution to all the players in the stream. The fuel supplier must be paid from the same source or port. The fuel transmitter will have to be paid. The power generator, the IPP, VRA, and the others, we will have to be paid from the same port. and transmitter grid has to be paid. So if the ECG is being inefficient, yes, then of course it becomes very difficult for these players to also have a share of this revenue. How would they, uh, retool their system? How would they do maintenance of their system and ensure that they will be able to generate the net power or the net transmission of fuel so that we have power? That's why once in a while we get the likes of WAPCO, car power threatening shutdown because Ghana owes them through the ECG. We are able to pay them their or reward them their contribution, the effort from their contribution, and so they are being fleeced as well. And so if car power decide not to dispatch its plant because we owe them, as it happened some few days ago, then we have lost some megawatts. If WAPCO decide not to transmit the fuel, even though fuel may be available, and I'm talking about natural gas, then the power plant cannot work to full throttle. And that is another, space for doom. So if GRICO doesn't have enough of money to upgrade and to maintain the transmission system, then there could be, some form of shutdown or shocks to the system that may impact on power supply. And the ECG itself today will have to revamp most of its transformers, change capacitors, ensure they have the right meters. And they are depriving themselves as well, even though they think that we collect the money. They themselves will not be getting much to ensure that they operate at optimal level. And so ECG's problem is a huge problem in the sector. We are suffering and we are experiencing themselves today because of the ECG. Don't blame anybody. It is the ECG's inefficiency.
And to what extent should these inefficiencies be blamed on the people who assume power? Because now there's a new government in power. They have the job to do. To what extent can you treat all this to the top?
Come again once more.
To what extent can you trace all this to the top? Because this government will have the opportunity, has already had the opportunity of appointing at least someone to run ECG. They have the opportunity of appointing a board for the Electricity Company of Ghana. And I'm asking, to what extent should we trace all these inefficiencies back to that top, the people who are appointed by the powers that be?
Of course, leadership is a cause, and the effect we feel it from their actions and inactions. Yes, we have a very smart and dynamic energy minister. What is very important to do is to also ensure that the leaders chosen for the respective space, when it comes to the ECG, GRICO, VRA, Ghana Gas, they get the right people, competent hands enough, given the right space to work with little political interference, and also the board that sets strategic goals.
That problem again. Okay, so I guess we can leave it there with Nana Amoasi, the 7th is Executive Director, Institute for Energy Security. That was my last question anyway, so we can leave it there with Nana. And well, we've been talking about the Electricity Company of Ghana. What do you think yourself? Because somehow we need to solve this problem, make the ECG much more efficient, so that what is produced by the power producer, at least we can pay a sizable chunk of it. If the ECG could at least was doing 2 billion out of the 2.5 billion, you will say that they have a shortfall of 500 million. So maybe in some months they will do 2.3 billion. In some months, if they were within that threshold, you will say anyway, over time, if you improve their efficiency, you'll be able to get them to get as close to the 2.5 billion as possible, or pay the entire 2.5 billion. But where we sit now, we have a challenge with the ECG that needs to be resolved, and political power is very important in our efforts to resolve that challenge. SM.
And containers no send drink.
Yeah.
And your biscuit said ye JJ John Pokaino.
Yeah.
And then your brood no what you make us be a butter bread embre a fini aton of fro.
Yes.
A 90 bread embre.
Now you can compact it.
Move. Obi me and now they are so bottom the Johnny.
Containers are
containers.
No, and I think I agree with Nana too. Nana too is saying that